Imagine drowning in debt, trying to survive just one more shift in a city where monsters wear bespoke suits. You're just a human bartender with a spray bottle and an attitude. Then he walks in. Dante Moretti, the Alpha King, a ruthless billionaire beast used to owning the world. You don't bow. You tell him he's not your type. But instead of killing you, he corners you in the rain, pins your hands, and whispers a dark promise. I'll change your mind by morning. Is it a threat, a seduction, or a trap you can't escape? Before we find out if she survives the night, hit that like button, subscribe to Atlantis Romantasy Collection for more addictive romance, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Chapter 1. The Spray Bottle Incident. The first rule of working at the sanctuary was simple: no shifting inside the bar. The second rule was harder to enforce: do not annoy the bartender. I wiped down the mahogany counter, the rag smelling faintly of bleach and cheap lemon polish. It was a Tuesday, which meant the crowd was mostly low-level betas looking to drown their sorrows in cheap gin, and a few daring humans who thought drinking near a werewolf gave them an edge.
"Maya, honey, pour me another."
A gruff voice grumbled from the end of the bar. I didn't look up. "You cut off, Jerry. Go home to your mate before she decides to use you as a chew toy." Jerry, a middle-aged shifter with a receding hairline and a drinking problem, let out a low, rumbling growl. It wasn't a threat, mostly just indigestion and annoyance, but the human couple in the corner booth flinched. I sighed, tossing the rag into the bucket. I adjusted the chopstick holding up my chaotic bun of brown curls and leaned over the bar, making sure my combat boots were firmly planted. "Jerry, don't growl at the tourists. It's bad for business." The bell above the heavy oak door chimed. Whatever atmosphere the bar had, the low hum of conversation, the clink of glass, the jukebox playing soft jazz died instantly. The silence wasn't gradual. It was a physical weight, slamming down on the room like a hammer. Every spine in the room stiffened. Jerry, who had been about to argue, snapped his mouth shut and lowered his head, his eyes fixing on the floor. I looked toward the door. The man standing there took up too much space. That was my first thought. He was broad, offensively broad, his shoulders straining the fabric of a bespoke charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car. He was tall, easily 6'5", with tan skin and hair the color of midnight ink. But it was the air around him that made the oxygen feel thin. It crackled with static, a heavy, oppressive energy that tasted like ozone and terrified instinct. He walked toward the bar. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, shifters scrambling to get out of his path without making eye contact. He didn't look at them. He only looked at me. His eyes were amber, burnished gold with flecks of darker brown, and they were locked on my face with a focus that made my skin prickle. He reached the bar and sat on a stool that groaned under his weight. "Whiskey," he said. His voice was deep, a baritone that vibrated through the wood of the counter and straight into my chest. "Neat. Top shelf." I didn't move immediately. My heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, screaming at me to run, but I forced my feet to stay planted. I wasn't going to be cowed by a wolf in a suit, no matter how good he smelled. And God, he smelled good. Like rain, cedarwood, and something sharp and masculine, like expensive whiskey. "We have a menu," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Or are you too important to read?" The bar went dead silent. Someone in the back whimpered. The stranger blinked, his amber eyes narrowing slightly. He clearly wasn't used to waiting, let alone being sassed. "The bottle on the left. Pour it." I rolled my eyes. Typical alpha behavior. "Fine, but I'm charging you double for the attitude." I turned to grab the bottle. As I poured the amber liquid into a glass, a drunk beta 2 seats down, new to the city clearly, decided to break the silence. "Hey, I was waiting for service first, sweetheart," the drunk yelled, slamming his hand on the bar. He leered at me. "How about you pour me a drink and then give me your number?" I opened my mouth to tell the guy to get lost, but the stranger in the suit moved first. He didn't stand up. He didn't even turn his head. He just let out a sound. It wasn't a growl. It was the voice. "Sit down." The command rolled through the room like a shockwave. It wasn't just a sound, it was a physical force. Every wolf in the room dropped to their knees instinctively. The drunk guy collapsed into his chair so hard the wood cracked, his face draining of color, his eyes wide with primal terror. Even I felt it, a sudden, dizzying urge to lower my head and submit. My knees buckled slightly, but I grabbed the edge of the bar and locked my elbows. I was human. I didn't bow to dogs. The stranger picked up his glass, looking satisfied with the absolute terror he had just inflicted. That ticked me off. I reached under the bar, my hand wrapped around the cool plastic of my weapon of choice. Squirt. A stream of ice-cold water mixed with lemon juice hit the stranger square in the face. The silence in the bar shifted from terrified to horrified. The stranger froze. Water dripped from his dark eyelashes, running down his chiseled nose and onto his pristine silk tie. He slowly lowered his drink, turning to look at me with an expression of absolute bewilderment. "Did you," he said, his voice dangerously quiet, "just spray me?" I held the yellow spray bottle up, pointing it at him like a gun. The label, written in black Sharpie, read, "Behave." "Rule number 1 of the sanctuary," I said, pointing the nozzle at his nose. "No alpha nonsense. You don't come into my bar and command the room. You want to have a measuring contest? Take it outside. In here, you drink your whiskey and you leave the other patrons alone." The stranger wiped the water from his cheek with a thumb. He looked at the wet spot on his finger, then back at me. The gold in his eyes flared, glowing brighter. For a second, I thought I was dead. I thought he was going to leap over the bar and tear my throat out. Instead, the corner of his mouth twitched. He leaned forward, ignoring the spray bottle pointed at his face. "You have spirit, little human." "And you have lemon juice on your tie," I shot back. "Pay for your drink and get out." He stared at me for a long moment, his gaze dropping to my lips, then back to my eyes. The air between us grew hot, heavy with a tension that felt less like anger and more like hunger. He pulled a crisp $100 bill from his jacket and placed it on the wet counter. "Keep the change," he murmured. "I have a feeling I'll be back." He stood up, adjusted his jacket, and walked out. The moment the door closed, the entire bar exhaled. "Maya," Jerry whispered from the floor, where he was still kneeling. "Do you have a death wish? Do you know who that was?" "Some arrogance in a suit," I asked, though my hands were shaking as I put the spray bottle away. "That," Jerry said, his voice trembling, "was Dante Moretti, the Alpha King." Oh, crap. Chapter 2. The Alleyway Encounter. The shift dragged on for another 4 hours, but my nerves were shot. Every time the door opened, I expected the king to march back in with a pack of executioners. But he didn't return. By 2 a.m., the last patron had stumbled out. I locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and began the cleanup. My mind was racing. Dante Moretti. The man who owned half the city. The man whose pack, the Obsidian Bloods, ran the entire supernatural underworld. And I had sprayed him with lemon water. "Stupid, Maya, stupid," I muttered to myself, tossing a bag of trash over my shoulder. I exited through the back door into the alleyway. It was raining, a light drizzle that made the cobblestones slick. My car, a rusty yellow 2005 Volkswagen Beetle named Bumble, was parked under the flickering streetlight. Bumble smelt like vanilla and old receipts, and right now, she looked like the safest place on earth. I fished my keys out of my pocket, walking briskly. The alley was dark, the shadows stretching long and thin. "You're hard to find, Maya Lin." The voice came from the darkness, smooth and predatory. I dropped my trash bag. I spun around, keys clutched between my knuckles like a makeshift claw. Dante Moretti stepped out from the shadows of the brick wall. He was still wearing the suit, though the tie was gone, and the top button of his shirt was undone, revealing a glimpse of tanned throat. He looked even bigger in the narrow alley, blocking my path to the main street. Behind him, parked sleek and silent like a panther, was a matte black Aston Martin DB11. My jaw almost dropped. He brought the Batmobile. Are you stalking me? I demanded, backing up until my boots hit the bumper of my yellow bug. I don't stalk, Dante said, taking a slow step toward me. I hunt. Creepy, I snapped. Is this where you kill me for the water incident? Because I have pepper spray, and I'm not afraid to season your steak. He chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that did weird things to my insides. No one is killing you, Maya. I'm here because you intrigue me. No human has looked me in the eye in 100 years, let alone assaulted me with citrus. He was close now, too close. I could smell the rain on him, mixed with that intoxicating cedarwood scent. It was overwhelming. My breath hitched. I didn't assault you, I said, though my voice lacked its usual bite. I corrected your behavior. Is that so? He moved faster than my eyes could track. 1 second he was 2 feet away, the next he was pressing me back against the wet metal of my car. He didn't hurt me. His hands landed on the roof of the car on either side of my head, caging me in. He leaned down, his face inches from mine. His amber eyes were glowing in the dark, the pupils blown wide. You smell like vanilla, he murmured, inhaling deeply near my neck. And fear. And sugar. I work in a bar, I managed to say, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would crack a rib. I smell like stale beer. No, he whispered. You smell like mine. The word hung in the damp air. Mine. The possessiveness in his tone made my knees weak, which annoyed me instantly. I placed my hands on his chest, solid muscle under fine wool, and pushed. He didn't budge an inch. Look, Your Highness, or whatever you are, I said, trying to summon my courage. You're very pretty, and you're very rich, and you smell expensive. But I don't date wolves. His eyes narrowed. Why? Because you're domineering, I listed, ticking fingers off in my head. You're possessive. You think you own everything you touch. I like nice guys. Guys who ask before they grab. Guys who don't growl at people. I looked him dead in the eye, tilting my chin up. You aren't my type. Dante went still. The silence stretched, thick and electric. Then he leaned in closer. His lips brushed the shell of my ear, sending a shiver violently down my spine. His voice dropped to a rough, gravelly whisper that vibrated through my entire body. I'm not your type? He repeated, his breath hot against my skin. He grabbed my wrists, gently, but with inescapable strength, and pinned them against the car behind me. He pressed his hips flush against mine, letting me feel the sheer power and size of him. You think you want a nice, safe human? He grazed his teeth against my pulse point. I'll change your mind by morning. He pulled back, his eyes burning with a promise that felt terrified and thrilling all at once. Go home, Maya, he commanded softly. Sleep well, because tomorrow, everything changes. He released me, turned on his heel, and got into the Aston Martin. The engine roared to life, a deep, guttural growl that matched its owner, and he sped off into the rainy night. I slid down the side of my car until I hit the pavement, gasping for air. Chapter 3. The Leverage. I didn't sleep well. I dreamt of glowing eyes and the smell of cedarwood. When I woke up, the reality of my life came crashing back. I wasn't just a bartender. I was the co-owner of the Tipsy Bean, my family's struggling cafe by day, bar by night. Since Dad died 3 years ago, the debts had been piling up like snowdrifts. I drove Bumble to the cafe, the morning sun doing nothing to improve my mood. When I walked in, the smell of roasting coffee usually calmed me down. Today, it smelled like stress. My mom, Brenda, was sitting at the corner table. She was wearing a bright pink bathrobe over her clothes and holding a paperback novel titled The Alien Warlord's Secret Baby. Morning, Pumpkin, she chirped, not looking up from the page where a green alien was presumably ravishing a human woman. Morning, Mom, I said, grabbing an apron. Why is the mail spread out all over the table? Brenda's face fell. She closed the book. Oh, that. I walked over and picked up the envelope on top. It was thick. Red letters stamped across the front. Final notice of foreclosure. My stomach dropped. Mom? What is this? I missed a few payments, she whispered, tearing up. The interest rate skyrocketed, Maya. I tried to refinance, but the bank sold our debt to a private holding company just days ago. They want the full amount. Today. Today? I shrieked. How much? She pointed to the figure at the bottom of the page. $200,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. We were going to lose it. We were going to lose Dad's legacy, the apartment upstairs, everything. Who holds the debt? I asked, my voice shaking. Maybe we can negotiate. I looked at the letterhead. Obsidian Holdings. The blood rushed back into my face, hot and angry. Obsidian. As if summoned by the devil himself, the sound of a powerful engine cut through the morning quiet. I looked out the window. The matte black Aston Martin was parking directly in the no parking zone in front of the cafe. No, I whispered. No, no, no. The door chimed. Dante Moretti walked in. In the daylight, he was even more devastating. He wore a navy blue suit today, crisp and tailored. He looked like he owned the world, and apparently he owned my cafe. He took off his sunglasses, his amber eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. Good morning, Maya, he said smoothly. My mom let out a gasp that sounded suspiciously like a moan. Oh, sweet mother of gargoyles, she whispered. Who is that? That, I said through gritted teeth, is the shark who is trying to take our home. I marched up to him, stopping 3 feet away, because getting closer made my brain do stupid things. You. Me, he agreed. You bought my debt, I accused. You bought it last week. You knew. I acquire assets, Dante said calmly. It's what I do. You came to my bar last night to gloat? I came to your bar for a drink. Finding you there was a happy coincidence. He walked past me, pulling out a chair at my mom's table. He looked at Brenda. Mrs. Lynn, I presume? Brenda blinked rapidly, smoothing her hair. You can call me Brenda, or anything really. I groaned. Mom, please. Dante sat down, looking entirely too comfortable. He reached into his inner suit jacket pocket. I expected a checkbook. Or a gun. Instead, he pulled out a small, worn black moleskin notebook and a fountain pen. He set them on the table. I'm not here to foreclose, Maya, Dante said, looking at me. I'm here to make a trade. I don't have 200 grand, I snapped. I don't want your money, he said. His eyes darkened. I want you. Chapter 4. The Contract. Excuse me? I choked out. Brenda's eyes went wide. She looked from Dante to me, then back to Dante. Like, in a sex way? Because if so, take the deal, honey. Mom, I yelled, go check the muffins. The muffins are fine, Brenda muttered, but she wisely picked up her alien book and pretended to read, her ears practically twitching to hear the gossip. Dante ignored the outburst. He tapped his finger on the wooden table. Sit down, Maya. I'll stand. Sit. He used a fraction of the voice, not enough to force me, but enough to make my knees suggest it was a good idea. I sat. Here's the situation, Dante said, his tone businesslike. The council, the governing body of the Pax, is pressuring me. An alpha king requires a queen. If I do not choose a mate within 30 days, they will force a political union upon me. They want me to marry the daughter of the Northern Alpha. She is unpleasant. Let me guess, I said, crossing my arms. She sprays you with water too? His lip twitched. She tries to kill my subordinates for sport. There is a difference. He leaned forward. I need a fiancé. Someone to present to the council to get them off my back. Someone who isn't interested in my power or my politics. And you picked me? I scoffed. The human who hates you? Precisely, he said. You aren't sycophantic. You won't fall in love with me, and you won't try to use my position to gain power in the pack. You are safe. Safe. The word stung, though I didn't know why. So, what's the deal? I asked. You agree to act as my fiancé for 30 days. You will wear my ring. You will attend events. You will live in my penthouse. Live with you? I stood up. Absolutely not. It is necessary for the ruse, he said calmly. In exchange, I will wipe the debt on this cafe completely. The deed will be transferred to your name. Your mother will be secure. I looked at Brenda. She was watching us, her eyes wide with hope. This cafe was all she had left of Dad. If we lost it, it would break her. $200,000. Just to pretend to date the hottest, most annoying man on the planet for a month. Rules, I said. Dante raised an eyebrow. He opened his black notebook to a fresh page and uncapped his pen. I am listening. 1. No touching unless absolutely necessary for the show, I said. He wrote something down. No touching. Agreed. 2. I keep my job. I work at the bar on weekends. He frowned. An alpha queen does not serve drinks. I do, I said firmly. Take it or leave it. He sighed, writing it down. Fine, but you will have guards. 3, I said, pointing a finger at him. This is fake. You don't get to command me. You don't get to growl at me. And when the 30 days are up, we go our separate ways. No strings. Dante stopped writing. He looked up at me, his amber eyes unreadable. No strings. Do we have a deal? I asked. He stood up and reached into his pocket again. This time he pulled out a velvet box. He tossed it to me. I caught it and opened it. Inside was a ring, a massive vintage gold band with a black diamond the size of a grape. It was heavy, ancient, and radiated power. Put it on, he said. Is this silver? I asked, eyeing the metal. Gold, he said. Wolves are allergic to silver, Maya. You should know that. I slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. Unnervingly perfectly. Rule number 3 of Wolf Law, Dante said softly, a smirk playing on his lips. If a human accepts a mating gift, the courtship is binding. This isn't a mating gift, I said, holding up my hand. It's a prop. Call it what you want, Dante said. He closed his notebook and tucked it back into his pocket. Pack your bags, Maya. I'll pick you up at 6. He turned to leave. Wait, Brenda yelled. Dante, honey, do you like lasagna? Dante paused at the door. He looked back at my mother, then at me, standing there with his ring on my finger. I love lasagna, Brenda, he said, his voice dripping with charm. He walked out. I slumped into my chair, staring at the black diamond on my hand. He is so your type, Brenda whispered. Shut up, Mom, I groaned. Chapter 5. Meeting Mom. Packing my entire life into 2 suitcases took less time than I expected, mostly because I refused to take anything that made me feel like I was moving in permanently. I packed my combat boots, my sketchbook, my favorite oversized sweaters, and, after a moment of hesitation, my spray bottle. You never knew when an alpha king might need a spritz of hydration to the face. My mom, Brenda, was helping, which mostly involved her holding up various pieces of my lingerie and asking if they were regal enough for a werewolf dynasty. Mom, put the lace thong down, I groaned, shoving a stack of t-shirts into my duffel bag. It's a business arrangement. I'm wearing cotton granny panties. It's a strategic choice to kill the mood. Kill the mood? Brenda gasped, clutching her pearls, which were actually plastic beads from Mardi Gras. Maya, you are living the plot of her fated billionaire beast. Chapter 4 explicitly states that the heroine must wear silk to bed to tempt the inner wolf. I am not tempting any wolves. I am saving our cafe. I zipped the bag shut with a finality that I hoped would end the conversation. It didn't. He's 6'5", Maya, she whispered, leaning against the doorframe of my childhood bedroom. I Googled him. His net worth is higher than the GDP of some small countries. And did you see those hands? The man could crush a melon with one hand. Why would he need to crush a melon, Mom? Metaphors! The doorbell rang downstairs. It wasn't a normal ring. It was a single authoritative press that seemed to demand the door open itself out of respect. He's here! Brenda shrieked, smoothing her bathrobe. Do I look like the mother of a queen? You look like you're wearing a bathrobe at 6 p.m, I said, grabbing my bags. Let's get this over with. We walked down the narrow stairs to the cafe floor. The Tipsy Bean was closed for the evening transition, the chairs stacked on tables. Through the glass front door, I saw the matte black Aston Martin parked on the curb. Leaning against it, looking like a GQ cover model who had lost his way and ended up in a failing coffee shop, was Dante. He wore a black t-shirt that clung to him like a second skin and dark jeans. It was casual for him, I assumed, though the watch on his wrist probably cost more than the building we were standing in. I unlocked the door. Dante straightened, his amber eyes locking onto me instantly. He didn't smile, but the air around him shifted, becoming warmer, heavier. You are ready, he stated, stepping inside. He didn't ask. He just took the heavy duffel bag from my shoulder as if it weighed nothing. I'm ready to get this over with, I corrected. Dante, Brenda came bustling forward, practically vibrating with excitement. Welcome to our humble abode. Can I get you anything? Coffee? A raw steak? I read that wolves need high protein. I buried my face in my hands. Mom. Dante, to his credit, didn't flinch. He looked at Brenda with a solemn, respectful nod. Thank you, Brenda, but I ate before I arrived. Your daughter's safety is my priority tonight. Brenda swooned. Actually, swooned. She grabbed the counter for support. Oh, he speaks like a duke. Maya, did you hear that? I heard it, I muttered. I have a question, Brenda said, her eyes narrowing with sudden intensity. In the Alpha's secret, the hero has to scent the heroine to mark his territory. Is that happening? Because the walls are thin and I have earplugs. Mom! I shouted, my face heating up. Dante cleared his throat. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out the black notebook. He clicked his pen. Scenting is a traditional part of our culture, Dante said smoothly, writing something down. However, Maya has requested strict boundaries. Clause 1, subsection A. No touching unless necessary. Brenda looked disappointed. That sounds boring. You know, tension is good, but release is better. Dante paused. He looked at Brenda, then back at his notebook. He scribbled furiously. Note, the mother encourages aggression. Use as ally? We should go, I said, grabbing my backpack. Before she starts asking about your nodding capabilities. Dante choked. A genuine human sound of surprise. He coughed, hiding a smirk behind his hand. Right, the car is waiting. He ushered me out the door, but before he left, he turned to Brenda. I will take care of her, Brenda. You have my word. I know you will, she winked. Just don't take too good care of her. Leave some room for the drama. I love a good third-act breakup. Dante looked confused for a second, then nodded as if this were sage wisdom. He closed the door, guided me to the Aston Martin, and opened the passenger door for me. As he walked around to the driver's side, I saw him pull the notebook out again. He muttered to himself, check, drama, third act. What are you writing? I asked as he slid into the leather seat next to me. Logistics, he lied smoothly, starting the engine. Wolf politics are complicated, Maya. I have to keep track of variables. My mom isn't a variable, I said, buckling my seatbelt. She's a chaos agent. I like her, Dante said, pulling away from the curb. She has excellent instincts. Chapter 6, The Move-In. The drive to the Heights, the district where the pack elite lived, was silent but not quiet. The engine of the Aston Martin purred with a low, throaty rumble that vibrated through the floorboards. Dante drove with one hand on the wheel, his grip relaxed but controlled. I tried not to stare at his hands. They were large, scarred across the knuckles, and capable of violence, yet he handled the car with a surprising gentleness. We pulled up to the Obsidian Tower, a glass needle piercing the skyline. It was the tallest building in the city, screaming wealth and overcompensation. Subtle, I deadpanned as the valet opened my door. Power is rarely subtle, Dante replied, tossing the keys to the valet without looking. We took a private elevator straight to the penthouse. The doors slid open, and I stepped into a space that was bigger than my entire apartment building. The penthouse was stunning, in a cold, don't touch anything kind of way. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. The floors were black marble, the furniture was white leather, and there wasn't a single personal item in sight. No photos, no books, no stray jackets. It looked like a showroom for a villain's lair. "Welcome home," Dante said, setting my bags down. "It looks like a museum," I said, spinning in a circle. "Does anyone actually live here? Or do you just stand around looking brooding in different corners?" Dante frowned, looking around the room as if seeing it for the first time. "It is efficient, clean. It's sterile," I corrected. "Where's the stuff, the life?" "I do not have time for stuff," he said, loosening his tie. "The guest wing is to the left. The master suite is to the right. The kitchen is fully stocked." I walked over to the window, looking down at the city lights. I felt small, out of place. I was a bartender with a rusted beetle. He was a king in a glass tower. "So," I said, turning back to him, "how does this work? Do I just exist here?" "You exist," Dante said, walking toward the kitchen, "and tomorrow you perform. The council is coming at noon." "Great," I muttered. "Showtime." I followed him into the kitchen. It was stainless steel and spotless. He opened the fridge and pulled out a bottle of water. "Hey," I said. He turned. "I'm serious about the boundaries, Dante. I'm here to play a part. I'm not your roommate, and I'm definitely not your whatever." He leaned against the counter, crossing his arms. The movement made his biceps flex against the black t-shirt. "My whatever?" "Your plaything," I said. "Your mate, whatever wolf term you use." He took a slow sip of water, his eyes tracking me over the rim of the bottle. "You are my fiancée, Maya. For the next 29 days, you are the most important person in this pack. That means you are protected, you are provided for, and yes, you are respected." "And the no-touching rule?" I wrote it down, didn't I? He tapped his chest pocket where the notebook lived. "Good." I grabbed my bag from the floor. "I'm going to the guest room. I assume it has a lock?" "It does," Dante said, though a lock would not stop me if I wanted to get in. I froze. "But," he added softly, his voice dropping an octave, "I do not enter where I am not invited. Sleep well, Maya." I stared at him for a second, trying to find the lie in his amber eyes. I couldn't. I turned and marched to the guest wing, slamming the door behind me. I locked it, then I dragged a chair under the handle, just in case. Chapter 7. The First Test. I woke up to the smell of coffee, not just any coffee, good coffee. I wandered out of the guest room, wearing my oversized I Hate Mondays t-shirt and flannel pajama pants. I followed the scent to the kitchen. Dante was there. He was fully dressed in a 3-piece gray suit, reading a tablet. A spread of pastries, fruit, and a steaming French press sat on the island. "Good morning," he said without looking up. "Eat, the vultures arrive in an hour." "The council?" I grabbed a croissant. "You make them sound delightful." "They are traditionalists," Dante said, finally looking at me. His gaze lingered on my t-shirt. "And they will test you. They believe a human cannot handle the pressure of the pack." "Let them test me," I said, pouring coffee. "I handle drunks on St. Patrick's Day. I can handle a few old dogs." An hour later, I was dressed in the Alpha Queen outfit Dante had provided. A sleek black dress that cost more than my car, and the massive engagement ring. The elevator chimed. 3 men and 1 woman walked in. They radiated power and judgment. King Dante, the leader, an older man with silver hair named Elder Marcus, said with a stiff bow. He looked at me like I was a stain on the marble floor. And the human. Maya, I corrected, stepping forward. I didn't bow. I extended a hand. Nice to meet you. Marcus stared at my hand like it was covered in sludge. He didn't take it. We were surprised by your choice, Alpha, the woman, Elder Vanessa said, sniffing the air. She smells of commonality and vanilla. Is that a problem? Dante asked. His voice was calm, but the air in the room dropped 10 degrees. I saw his hand twitch toward his pocket. The notebook. Don't growl. She fights her own battles. I saw Dante's jaw tighten. He stayed silent. He was letting me handle it. The problem, Marcus said, turning to me, is that a human is fragile. Our world is violent, child. You will break. You do not have the blood, the lineage, or the strength to stand beside a king. He stepped into my personal space, using his height to intimidate me. How much is he paying you? We can double it if you leave now. Dante let out a low, vibrating sound, a warning. I held up a hand to stop him. I looked Marcus dead in the eye. You think I'm here for money? I laughed. It was a dry, sharp sound. Listen to me, Cujo. I run a bar in the neutral zone. I've broken up fights between shifters twice your size while you were probably getting a pedicure. I don't need claws to handle a room. And I certainly don't need lineage to know when someone is being a pompous ass. The room went silent. Vanessa's mouth dropped open. I took a step toward Marcus, forcing him to step back or look down at me. Dante chose me because I'm real. Because I don't bow just because someone growls. So you can take your checkbook and your attitude back down the elevator. I'm not going anywhere. Marcus blinked. He looked at Dante, then back at me. A grudging respect flickered in his eyes. She has spirit, Marcus muttered. She has teeth, Dante corrected, stepping to my side and wrapping an arm around my waist. He pulled me flush against him. It broke the no-touching rule, but it felt like a shield, not a trap. And she is mine. Any insult to her is a challenge to me. Are we clear? Clear, Alpha, the council murmured in unison. They left 10 minutes later, looking thoroughly chastised. When the doors closed, Dante released me. He looked at me, a strange light in his eyes. You called Elder Marcus Cujo, he said. He was asking for it, I replied, smoothing my dress. Dante reached into his pocket and pulled out the notebook. He wrote something down, a small smile playing on his lips. What did you write? I asked. Just a reminder, he said. Note, she defends the territory. Keep her. Chapter 8. The Nightmare. The adrenaline of the council meeting wore off by evening, leaving me exhausted. I retreated to my room early, locking the door and ignoring the strange emptiness of the massive penthouse. I fell asleep quickly, but I woke up at 3 a.m. A sound woke me. Not a noise from the city, but a sound from inside the apartment. It was a low, agonized moan. I sat up, listening. It came again, a sound of pure distress. I unlocked my door and crept into the hallway. The penthouse was dark, shadows stretching across the marble. The sound was coming from the master suite. I hesitated. Not my business, I told myself. He's the Alpha King. He's fine. Then he screamed. It was a strangled, broken sound, like someone fighting for air. I didn't think. I ran. I pushed open the double doors to his bedroom. It was freezing in there. He had the AC cranked down to Arctic levels. Dante was thrashing in the massive bed. The sheets were tangled around his legs. He was soaked in sweat, his chest heaving. No, he gasped, his voice raw. Leave them. Take me. No. He was having a nightmare, a bad one. I rushed to the side of the bed. Dante. Dante, wake up. I reached out to shake his shoulder, but I froze. He slept shirtless. In the moonlight streaming through the window, I saw his back. It was a map of violence. Thick, jagged scars crisscrossed his skin, old claw marks, burn scars, silver burns that looked like melted wax. It wasn't just battle damage, it was torture. Someone had hurt him, methodically and repeatedly, a long time ago. My hand hovered over a particularly nasty scar on his shoulder blade. The ruthless king suddenly looked very human. And very broken. Dante, I whispered, softer this time. I placed my hand gently on his arm. It's just a dream, you're safe. His eyes snapped open. They were glowing neon gold, wild and unseeing. He sat up with a roar, grabbing my wrist in a crushing grip. Get back, he snarled, his teeth elongating into fangs. I didn't pull away. I didn't scream. I knew fear. I saw it every night at the bar, and this wasn't aggression. It was panic. Dante, I said firmly, keeping my voice steady. It's Maya. Look at me. It's Maya. He blinked, his chest heaving like a bellows. The gold in his eyes slowly faded back to amber. He looked at my wrist in his hand, then at my face. He released me instantly, scrambling back against the headboard as if I were the one who had burned him. Maya, he breathed, his voice shaking. Did I hurt you? No, I said, rubbing my wrist. You were dreaming. He ran a hand through his sweat-dampened hair, looking away from me. He seemed ashamed. Get out. You shouldn't see this. See what? I asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. That you have nightmares? Welcome to the club, Your Highness. I dream about the health inspector shutting down the cafe once a week. He didn't laugh. He looked at his hands. It is not the same. I am the alpha. I do not show weakness. You're bleeding, I noted. He had dug his own claws into his palms during the dream. I reached over to the nightstand, grabbed a tissue, and reached for his hand. He flinched, but let me take it. I wiped the blood away. Everyone has scars, Dante, I said quietly, glancing at his back. Even kings. He looked at me then. The arrogance was gone. The mask was down. For the first time, he looked just like a man who was tired of being strong. Why are you still here? He whispered. You should be running. I told you, I said, standing up. I don't run. I walked to the door. Go back to sleep, Dante. I'll leave the hallway light on. I closed the door softly. Inside the room, Dante didn't go back to sleep. He reached for his nightstand, his hand trembling slightly, and pulled out the black notebook. He opened it to a new page. He didn't write a strategy. He didn't write a rule. He wrote one word, underlined it 3 times, and then closed the book. Safe. Chapter 9. The Coffee Date. I expected the morning after the nightmare to be awkward. I expected silence, avoidance, or maybe a grumpy alpha king pretending he hadn't just screamed in his sleep while I held his hand. I did not expect room service. I walked into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from my eyes, and froze. Dante was there, leaning against the marble island. He looked devastatingly fresh in a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, exposing thick forearms and a Rolex that probably cost more than my education. Good morning, he said. His voice was smooth, devoid of the panic from 3 hours ago. Morning, I muttered, eyeing him suspiciously. You look chipper. I am efficient, he corrected. He slid a mug across the counter toward me. It wasn't a generic white mug. It was a massive hand-painted ceramic mug that looked suspiciously like something you'd find in a quirky artisan shop, not a billionaire's penthouse. Coffee, he said. 3 sugars, oat milk, a dash of cinnamon. I stared at the mug. I never told you I take cinnamon. You mumbled it to your mother on the phone 2 days ago, Dante said, picking up his own espresso. You said the coffee at the Tipsy Bean was missing its holiday spirit. I took a sip. It was perfect. Annoyingly, frustratingly perfect. It was the best cup of coffee I had ever tasted. Who are you? I asked, lowering the mug. And what have you done with the guy who growls at people for breathing too loud? I am multitasking, Dante said. He tapped his chest pocket. The outline of the black notebook was visible. I am managing a kingdom, and I am managing an asset. I'm the asset? You are the fiancé, he said, and fiancés require maintenance. He walked around the counter, moving into my personal space. The scent of him, cedarwood and rain, hit me hard. He reached out, his hand hovering near my face. I flinched, instinctively expecting a command or a grab. Dante paused. A flicker of something painful crossed his eyes, probably a memory of last night, but he pushed it down. Gently, with surprising care, he tucked a loose curl of hair behind my ear. You have flour on your cheek, he murmured. From the bakery downstairs, I had them bring up fresh croissants. My heart did a traitorous little flip. You bought out a bakery? I bought a croissant, Maya. I am not a cartoon villain. He smirked, a dangerous, sexy curve of his lips. Get dressed. We have errands. Errands? You cannot meet the pack elite in combat boots, he said, glancing at my feet. We are going shopping. I hate shopping, I groaned. I know, Dante said, his eyes gleaming. I wrote that down too. Chapter 10. The Shopping Trip. The boutique was called Velour, which sounded less like a clothing store and more like a place where vampires went to nap. It was located in the heart of the Heights, the district where the air smelled like money and ozone. Dante entered the store like he was invading a small country. The staff, 3 tall, willowy women who definitely weren't human, immediately snapped to attention. King Dante, the manager, a woman with sharp cheekbones, practically purred. We closed the store as requested. Good, Dante said. He gestured to me. This is Maya. She needs a wardrobe suitable for a queen. Tonight is the gala. The manager looked me up and down. Her eyes lingered on my faded jeans and the Tipsy Bean t-shirt I refused to change out of. She sniffed. I see. We have our work cut out for us. Perhaps some silk to hide the hips? My hips are fine, I snapped. They are perfect, Dante growled, his voice dropping into that warning register. Dress her, now. The next hour was torture. The assistants brought out gown after gown. They were all beautiful, expensive, and completely wrong. Pastels, lace, excessive ruffles. I looked like a cupcake in half of them, and a bridesmaid in the other half. No, I said, stepping out of the dressing room in a powder blue chiffon number. I look like I'm going to a gender reveal party. Dante was sitting on a velvet couch, scrolling through his tablet. He looked up, scanned the dress, and frowned. He pulled out the notebook. Reference check, he muttered. He flipped a page. She values autonomy over diamonds. She hates feeling trapped. He stood up and walked over to the rack the manager was guarding. He pushed past the silk and velvet. His hand landed on something in the back. He pulled it out. It was a gown, yes, but it was midnight blue, bordering on black. The fabric was heavy, some kind of liquid satin. But what caught my eye was the jacket he pulled out next to it. It was a cropped leather jacket, tailored, sharp, with silver hardware, or platinum, knowing him. It looked like armor. Try this, Dante said, handing them to me. The manager gasped. Sire, a leather jacket for the gala? It is unorthodox. She is unorthodox, Dante said, his eyes locked on mine. Go. I went back into the changing room. I slipped on the dress. It fit like a glove, hugging every curve without suffocating me. Then I pulled on the jacket. It gave the outfit an edge, a barrier between me and the world. I looked in the mirror. I didn't look like a princess. I looked like someone who could run a bar and rule a kingdom. I walked out. Dante stopped checking his emails. He slowly stood up. His amber eyes raked over me, starting at the combat boots, which I refused to take off, and traveling up to the leather jacket. The air in the room got hot, very hot. Well, I asked, twirling slightly. Too much biker chick? Dante cleared his throat. He looked at the manager. Pack it and burn the blue one. You like it? I teased, feeling a strange flutter of pride. He stepped close, leaning down so his lips brushed my ear. I like that it looks like you, and I like that I'm the only one who knows what's underneath it. He pulled back before I could remember how to breathe, handing his black credit card to the stunned manager. Add the boots to the bill, he commanded. She keeps the boots. I watched him walk to the counter, tapping his notebook again. Note, leather is a go. Do not buy pastels. Chapter 11. The Gala. Part 1. The Pack Gala was held in the grand hall of the Obsidian Tower, a room I hadn't even known existed until tonight. It was essentially a ballroom the size of a football field, filled with crystal chandeliers, an orchestra, and about 300 werewolves in formal wear. I stood at the top of the grand staircase, my hand gripping Dante's arm. The leather jacket gave me confidence, but the sheer number of apex predators in the room was making my human instincts scream run. Breathe, Dante whispered. They smell fear. I'm not scared, I lied. I'm just worried about the open bar tab. He chuckled, the sound vibrating against my side. If anyone looks at you wrong, tell me. I will remove their eyes. Romance isn't dead, I muttered. It just threatens people with bodily harm. We descended the stairs. The room went silent. It was the spray bottle incident all over again, but on a massive scale. Hundreds of eyes tracked us. I felt the weight of their judgment. Human, frail, outsider. Dante didn't care. He walked with his head high, broadcasting a wave of alpha dominance so potent it felt like static electricity. He was claiming me publicly. We circulated the room. I met alphas from other cities, pack dignitaries, and wealthy benefactors. I held my own, thanks to years of bartending small talk. I smiled, I nodded, I didn't bow. Then, she appeared. Jessica. She was tall, blonde, and drop-dead gorgeous in a red dress that was basically painted on. She was a she-wolf, clearly high-ranking. She smelled like expensive perfume and malice. Dante, she purred, stepping directly into his path. She ignored me completely. It's been too long. We missed you at the hunt last month. I was busy, Jessica, Dante said, his tone cool. This is Maya, my fiancée. Jessica finally looked at me. Her gaze was like a physical slap. She looked at my boots, then my jacket. She let out a laugh that sounded like tinkling glass. Oh, Dante, she said, touching his arm familiarly. You always did have a sense of humor. A human? And dressed like that? Is she the entertainment? Dante stiffened. I felt his muscles coil like a spring. I'm the fiancé, I said, stepping forward before Dante could murder her. And the jacket costs more than your car. Nice to meet you. Jessica's smile faltered. Her eyes flashed neon yellow. Her wolf was surfacing. Cute, she spat. But you don't belong here, pet. You smell like prey. She stumbled, lurching forward with her glass of red wine. It was a classic mean girl move. The wine splashed across the front of my dress, not on the leather jacket, but on the silk skirt. A dark, ugly stain spread instantly. Oops, Jessica said, her smirk returning. Clumsy me. I guess you'll have to leave. The music stopped. The crowd gasped. Disrespecting the Alpha King's mate was a death wish. I looked down at the stain. Then I looked at Dante. His face was a mask of stone, but his eyes were burning with a cold, terrifying rage. Chapter 12. The Gala, Part 2. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Even the orchestra had stopped playing. Every wolf was holding their breath, waiting for the violence. Dante slowly unhooked his arm from mine. He took a step toward Jessica. He didn't growl. He didn't shift. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at her. Jessica, Dante said. His voice was soft, almost gentle, which made it infinitely more terrifying. You spilled wine on my fiancé. It was an accident, Alpha, Jessica said, though her voice wavered. She took a step back. She got in the way. You are a beta of the Silver Creek Pack, Dante continued, his voice echoing in the silent hall. You have enhanced reflexes. You can catch a fly in midair. And yet, you could not hold a glass of wine while standing still. He tilted his head. Either you are incompetent or you are malicious. Which is it? Jessica paled. If you are incompetent, Dante said, stepping closer, then you are unfit to lead your pack's delegation. If you are malicious, then you have insulted the crown. That is treason. He let the word hang there. Treason. Apologize, Dante commanded. He used the voice. Jessica dropped to her knees. It wasn't a choice. Gravity forced her down. She was shaking. I apologize, she choked out, head bowed. I am sorry, my queen. Dante looked at me. He waited. He was letting me decide her fate. I looked at the trembling woman. I could have been cruel. I could have demanded she leave. But I remembered what Dante had written in his notebook. She defends the territory. It's fine, I said loudly so the room could hear. Accidents happen when you're nervous, Jessica. Maybe switch to white wine next time. It stains less. I offered her a napkin from a passing waiter's tray. She stared at the napkin, then at me, looking utterly humiliated by my mercy. She took it, scrambled up, and fled the room. Dante turned back to me. The rage vanished from his eyes, replaced by a fierce, glowing pride. You handled that with grace, he murmured. I just wanted her gone, I whispered. Now, about this dress. The dress is ruined, Dante said, but the night isn't. He turned to the orchestra. Play. The music started again, a slow waltz. Dante held out his hand. Dance with me, Maya. I can't dance, I protested, and I have wine on my skirt. I don't care about the wine, he said, and I will lead. He pulled me onto the floor. His hand settled on the small of my back, warm and firm. He pulled me close, closer than was strictly necessary for a fake engagement. We moved together. I stumbled once, and he caught me effortlessly, adjusting his stride to match mine. You defended me, I said quietly, looking up at him. Always, he said. The word felt heavy, a vow. Even though I'm human? Even though I embarrassed you with the jacket? You didn't embarrass me, Dante said. His thumb stroked the leather of my jacket. You looked like a warrior, and you showed them that you are not prey. He spun me around, dipping me low. The room blurred. For a moment, I forgot about the contract. I forgot about the debt. I forgot about the notebook. I looked at him. The scars I knew were under his shirt, the nightmares I knew haunted his sleep, and I didn't see a monster. I saw a man who was trying really, really hard. Dante, I whispered as he pulled me back up. Yes? You're stepping on my combat boot. He laughed, a real, genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. My apologies, Maya, he said, not letting go. I'm still learning. As we swayed there, I had a terrifying realization. This didn't feel fake anymore, and that was a much bigger problem than a wine stain. Chapter 13. The Jealousy. The gala had been a battlefield, but Saturday night at the Tipsy Bean was a different kind of war zone. Maya, table 4 needs a refill on the nachos, and the bachelorette party in the corner wants to know if we have any slutty shots. I wiped sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. Tell them we have tequila and bad decisions. That usually suffices. I was back in my element. Jeans, combat boots, apron on. The only difference was the heavy gold ring with the black diamond on my finger, which I kept catching on the beer taps, and the 6'5" Alpha King sitting in the darkest corner of the room. Dante had insisted on security. This meant he sat there, nursing a single whiskey for 3 hours, radiating a low-level menace that kept the bar unusually well-behaved. Every time a patron looked at me for longer than 3 seconds, Dante would simply look at them. They usually tipped 30% and left immediately. Who's the statue? Asked Leo, the new barback I'd hired to help with the weekend rush. Leo was 22, human, and had the golden retriever energy of someone who had never seen a werewolf rip a car door off its hinges. He was sweet, helpful, and completely oblivious. That's my fiancé, I muttered, pouring a pint.
No way!
Leo laughed, leaning his hip against the counter.
That guy? He looks like he eats gravel for breakfast. You need someone fun, someone who can keep up with you.
Leo reached out and brushed a stray curl of hair off my shoulder. It was a harmless, friendly gesture. The sound didn't come from a speaker. It came from the corner booth. It was a deep, guttural vibration that rattled the glasses on the shelf. The music seemed to stop. The air in the room grew heavy, charged with ozone and violence. I looked up. Dante was standing. He wasn't just standing, he was stalking toward the bar. His amber eyes were glowing, the pupils slit like a predator's. His focus was entirely on Leo's hand, the hand that was currently frozen near my shoulder. Leo went pale. Maya? Is that a... Move, Leo, I hissed, pushing him toward the kitchen. Go count the napkins, now. Leo bolted. Dante reached the bar. He gripped the edge of the oak counter so hard I heard the wood groan. His knuckles were white. He touched you. Dante snarled. His voice was rough, layered with the alpha command. Why did he touch you? He was brushing hair off my shoulder, Dante, I said, keeping my voice calm despite my racing heart. He's a kid. He's harmless. He smells like desire, Dante growled, leaning over the bar, invading my space. He wants what is mine. I am not a possession, I snapped, and you are causing a scene. You promised to behave. My wolf does not understand behave when another male puts his hands on my mate, he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. He was losing it. The logical king was gone. The jealous beast was in charge. I saw the muscles in his neck cording, fighting the urge to shift and tear the bar apart. I remembered the notebook. She fights her own battles. But right now, fighting him would only escalate it. I needed to ground him. I took a breath. I reached across the bar. I placed my hand flat against the center of his chest, right over his heart. It was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Dante, I said softly. I didn't push. I just held him. Look at me. His glowing eyes snapped to mine. I'm here, I said. I'm wearing your ring. I'm going home to your tower. Leo is just a barback. You are the king. My thumb brushed against the fabric of his shirt, tracing a small circle over his heart. The effect was instant. The tension drained out of his shoulders. The glow in his eyes faded back to a warm amber. He let out a long, shaky breath, leaning into my touch. You, he murmured, covering my hand with his own. His hand was massive, engulfing mine completely. You are dangerous, Maya Lin. Why? Because I have a spray bottle? Because you can calm the storm without speaking a word. He straightened up, regaining his composure. He reached into his jacket pocket with his free hand, pulled out the notebook, and clicked his pen. What are you writing? I asked, withdrawing my hand. Data, he said, his voice husky. Note, touch calms the beast. Jealousy is inefficient, but unavoidable. Chapter 14. Brenda's Advice. Sunday morning at the Obsidian Tower was usually quiet, mostly because the soundproofing was excellent. But soundproofing was no match for Brenda Lynn. Knock knock, housekeeping. The elevator doors pinged open, and my mother breezed into the penthouse carrying a bag from a metaphysical shop that smelled strongly of patchouli and sage. Dante was sitting on the white leather sofa, reviewing PAC financial reports on a tablet. He looked up, startled. Brenda, he said, standing up out of habit. We were not expecting you. A mother knows when she is needed, Brenda declared. She dropped her bag on the pristine coffee table. Maya is in the shower. I heard the water running, which gives us about 15 minutes. Dante looked wary. For what? For the talk, Brenda said. She patted the spot next to her on the couch. Sit, wolf boy. Dante sat. He looked terrified. This was a man who negotiated treaties with vampires and hunted rogue shifters, but a middle-aged woman in a floral cardigan had him sweating. I've been observing, Brenda began, pulling a stick of sage out of her bag. You two have the tension, the chemistry. It's very chapter 15 of The Lycan's Lust, but you're missing the emotional bridge. Dante blinked. He slowly reached for his notebook. Emotional bridge. Go on, You can't just be the alpha, Brenda lectured, waving the unlit sage like a wand. Maya is independent. She's stubborn. If you just try to claim her, she'll spray you again. You have to woo the mind, Dante. The body follows the brain. Woo the mind, Dante repeated, writing it down. Specifics? Foreplay isn't just, Brenda gestured vaguely at his lap. Dante choked. Foreplay is doing the dishes. Foreplay is listening to her rant about the coffee bean supplier. Foreplay is vulnerability. Vulnerability, Dante wrote, underlining it. I showed her my nightmare. Does that count? Brenda paused, her eyes softened. You showed her your nightmare? She found me, Dante admitted, looking at his boots. She did not run. Oh, honey, Brenda smiled, patting his knee. She's already half in love with you then. Maya fixes broken things. It's her flaw and her superpower. But don't rely on pity. Rely on partnership. Ask her for help. Make her feel needed, not just protected. Dante stopped writing. He looked at Brenda with genuine intensity. Make her feel needed. I've spent my life ensuring no one needs to help me. That's why you're lonely in a tower, Brenda said bluntly. Fix that. The bathroom door opened down the hall. Mom? I called out, wrapping a towel around my wet hair. Why does it smell like a hippie exploded in here? Just clearing the bad vibes, Brenda shouted back. She winked at Dante. Remember, the dishes. Dante looked at his notebook. Step 47. The dishes. Chapter 15. The storm. The weather in Obsidian City was usually mild, but when it turned violent. By Sunday evening, the sky had turned a bruised purple. The wind was howling against the glass walls of the penthouse, shaking the panes in their frames. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to read a book, but my eyes weren't moving. My knuckles were white. Boom! Thunder cracked directly overhead, sounding like a bomb going off. The lights flickered. I flinched, curling into a ball. I hated storms. I had hated them since I was a kid, hiding under the covers while the sky screamed. It felt like the world was ending. Dante walked in from his office. He had abandoned the suit for sweatpants and the tight gray t-shirt. He took one look at me, curled up, pale, trembling, and stopped. Maya? I'm fine, I squeaked. Crack! I let out a small yelp and buried my face in my knees. Dante didn't say anything. He didn't tell me to grow up. He didn't tell me it was just noise. He walked over to the massive white leather sectional. He pulled the cushions off. Then he grabbed the blankets from the back of the couch. What are you doing? I asked, peeking out from my knees. Structural engineering, he said calmly. He moved the coffee table. He draped the heavy wool blankets over the backs of the chairs and the sofa frame. He weighed down the corners with heavy law books. Within 5 minutes, he had constructed a massive, dark, cozy fortress in the middle of the living room. Get in, he commanded softly. I hesitated, then crawled into the dark space. It was warm. The heavy blankets muffled the sound of the wind. It smelled like him, cedar and safety. Dante crawled in after me. He had brought a flashlight, which he set on its end so it cast a soft, ambient glow against the roof of the fort. Better? He asked, sitting cross-legged facing me. A little, I whispered. This is ridiculous. You're the king. Kings build castles, he said. This is just softer architecture. Another clap of thunder shook the floor. I jumped, instinctively lunging forward. Dante caught me. He pulled me into his lap, wrapping his arms around me. His chest was solid and warm. I buried my face in the crook of his neck, squeezing my eyes shut. I've got you, he rumbled. His voice was deep, vibrating through my chest, drowning out the thunder. Nothing gets in here. Not the storm. Not the council. Nothing. We sat like that for a long time. The no-touching rule was shattered, lying in pieces outside the blanket fort. Why are you so nice to me? I mumbled into his shirt. I'm mean to you. I spray you with water. Because, Dante said, his chin resting on top of my head, You're the only person who treats me like a man, not a monument. And because... He trailed off. Because what? I looked up. We were inches apart. The flashlight cast shadows across his sharp cheekbones. His eyes were dark, dilated, and focused entirely on my mouth. Because, he whispered, I don't want to be alone in the tower anymore. Chapter 16. The First Kiss. The storm was passing, the thunder rumbling further away, but the atmosphere inside the blanket fort was electric. I was still in his lap. My hands were resting on his shoulders. His hands were on my waist, his thumbs drawing slow, distracting circles on the fabric of my t-shirt. I should move. I knew I should move. The contract said fake. The contract said business. But looking at him now, hair messy, eyes vulnerable, holding me like I was something precious, I didn't want to move. Dante, I breathed. Maya, he replied, his gaze dropping to my lips again. This is against the rules, I whispered. Clause 1, subsection A. I am the king, Dante murmured, leaning in closer. I can amend the laws. It's supposed to be fake, I argued, though I was leaning in too. You're supposed to be acting. I stopped acting 3 days ago, he said roughly. I haven't been acting since you walked into the gala in that jacket. My heart hammered against my ribs. You haven't? No. He moved one hand up to cut my jaw, his thumb brushing my bottom lip. His skin was rough, calloused, and incredibly warm. I manipulated the debt to get you here, I admit that, but I didn't expect to crave you. I didn't expect to lose my mind when another man touched you. You were jealous, I accused softly. I was possessive, he corrected. There is a difference. Jealousy is fearing you will lose something. Possessiveness is knowing it is already yours and daring anyone to take it. I'm not yours, Dante. Aren't you? He didn't give me time to answer. He closed the distance. His lips crashed onto mine. It wasn't a gentle, tentative first kiss. It was an explosion. It was hunger and frustration and days of pent-up tension releasing all at once. He tasted like coffee and power. I gasped, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss, his tongue sweeping into my mouth. I groaned, my fingers tangling in his dark hair, pulling closer. He groaned back, a low, animalistic sound that vibrated straight to my core. He shifted, pinning me under him on the pile of cushions, his weight heavy and perfect. For a moment, there was no contract, no debt, no species barrier. There was just him and me in the dark. I broke the kiss, gasping for air, my forehead resting against his. We were both panting. Okay, I whispered, my voice trembling. Maybe. Dante waited, his eyes burning. Maybe? Maybe you are my type, I admitted. Dante smirked, a triumphant, devastatingly handsome smirk. He pecked my lips once more, gentle this time. I told you, he whispered against my mouth. I told you I'd change your mind. I laughed, a breathless sound. Don't get cocky, wolf boy. You still have to do the dishes. Dante froze. He pulled back slightly, looking confused. The dishes? Mom said so, I teased, pushing him off me. Foreplay is doing the dishes. Dante sat up, running a hand through his hair. He looked dazed, happy, and completely wrecked. Fine, he said, staring at me like I was the sun. I will buy a dishwasher factory if I have to, but first... He reached for his notebook, which had fallen onto the cushions. Seriously? I asked. Now? Important data, he muttered, scribbling with a shaking hand. Note, step 50 complete. She kissed back. Update status, not fake. Chapter 17, the morning after. I woke up tangled in a fleece blanket, my cheek pressed against a white leather cushion. For a second, I didn't know where I was. Then I saw the flashlight standing on its end, its battery finally dead, and the makeshift roof of the blanket fort sagging slightly above me. Memory rushed back. The storm, the fort, the kiss. The kiss. I groaned, burying my face in the cushion. I had kissed the Alpha King, and worse, I had liked it. I had really liked it. I reached out to the spot next to me. The cushion was cold. Dante was gone. A pang of disappointment hit me, sharp and immediate. Had he regretted it? Was it just a heat-of-the-moment mistake induced by thunder and adrenaline? I crawled out of the fort, my joints popping. The penthouse was bright, the morning sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, making the previous night's storm feel like a fever dream. I smelled bacon. I walked toward the kitchen, tugging the hem of my oversized t-shirt down. Dante was there. He was dressed in his suit trousers and a crisp white shirt, but he wasn't wearing the jacket. He was standing at the sink, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows, scrubbing a frying pan with an intensity usually reserved for interrogating spies. I leaned against the doorframe, watching him. "You have a staff of 20 people, Dante. Why are you fighting a skillet?" He turned. His face wasn't guarded or cold. He looked relaxed. A smudge of soap foam was on his chin. "Brenda said foreplay is doing the dishes," he stated, his voice grave. "I dismissed the cleaning staff for the morning. I am scrubbing." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "She was speaking metaphorically, you idiot." "Metaphors are inefficient," Dante said, rinsing the pan. He dried his hands on a towel and walked toward me. "I prefer direct action." He stopped a foot away. The air between us crackled. It wasn't the scary, oppressive static from the first day. It was warm, magnetic. "Good morning, Maya," he murmured. "Morning," I squeaked. He reached out, his thumb brushing the soap smudge off his own chin, then his hand cupped my cheek. He didn't ask for permission this time. He leaned down and kissed me, soft, lingering, and possessive. "I have a meeting with the council," he said against my lips. "I have to clear my schedule." "For what?" "For us," he said. His amber eyes were glowing. "Tonight, we are done with contracts. Tonight, we make this real. I'm taking you to the ancestral estate. There are traditions." My heart hammered. Real. He wanted to make it real. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay," he repeated, looking like he wanted to skip the meeting and drag me back into the fort. He kissed my forehead. "Wear the ring. Don't take it off." He grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator. Before the doors closed, I saw him pull out the black notebook. He checked something off with a flourish. I stood in the kitchen, touching my lips, smiling like a fool. I looked at the drying rack. He had washed every single spoon. I was in so much trouble. Chapter 18. The Villain's Move. By noon, the silence of the penthouse was driving me crazy. I needed to move. I needed to tell someone. I drove Bumble to the Tipsy Bean. The little yellow car rattled and coughed, but it started. The cafe was quiet. Monday lunch rush was over. Brenda was in the back office, probably ordering more sage, or reading The Vampire's Scottish Bride. I poured myself a coffee and sat at a window booth, spinning the black diamond ring on my finger. I felt giddy. Terrified, but giddy. Expensive rock for a barista. I looked up. A man was standing at the end of my table. He was handsome in a slick, oily sort of way. Slicked back blonde hair, a suit that was trendy rather than timeless, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Can I help you?" I asked, my bartender instincts kicking in. "Kitchen's closed." "I'm not hungry," the man said, sliding into the booth opposite me without asking. "I'm Vargas, Alpha of the Silver Creek Pack." My stomach tightened. Silver Creek. That was Jessica's pack, the rival pack. "If you're here to complain about the wine stain on Jessica's dress," I said, keeping my voice steady, "send the bill to the tower." Vargas laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "Jessica is a fool. I'm not here for her. I'm here for you, Maya Lin. I'm engaged, I said, lifting my hand to flash the ring. Happily. Happily, Vargas repeated, tasting the word like sour milk. That's what Dante wants you to think. He's very good at the long game. Did he tell you how he found you? We met at my bar, I said. I sprayed him with water. Charming, Vargas said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a manila envelope. He slid it across the table. But Dante doesn't believe in coincidence. He believes in acquisition. What is this? Public records, Vargas said, standing up, and private bank transfers. You think he saved your little cafe because he liked your spirit? Or because he needed leverage? He paid off the debt, I said defensively. He saved us. Check the dates, Maya, Vargas whispered, leaning down. Check the date of the foreclosure notice, and check the date he bought the holding company that issued it. He tapped the table. He didn't save you from the shark, Vargas smiled, his canines flashing. He is the shark. He broke your leg so he could be the one to carry you. Vargas turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving the envelope sitting between us like a bomb. Chapter 19. The Truth. I stared at the envelope for 10 minutes. Don't open it, my brain said. He's the villain. He's lying. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Dante was ruthless. He was a king who wrote courtship steps in a notebook because he didn't understand human emotion naturally. I opened the envelope. Inside were copies of bank transfers, property deeds, and emails. I shuffled through them, my hands shaking. Document A. A transfer of ownership for the debt of the Tipsy Bean. Date October 12th. Buyer, Obsidian Holdings, LLC. Document B. The foreclosure notice sent to Brenda. Date October 13th. Document C. An email from Dante to his lawyer. Subject, the Lin asset. Body, acquire the debt immediately. I want full leverage before I make contact. She will not agree unless she is desperate. Execute the foreclosure notice the morning after I make my approach. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. October 12th. That was the day before he walked into the bar. He hadn't stumbled into the sanctuary by accident. He had scouted me. He had bought my family's debt, engineered the foreclosure, and then walked in the next morning like a savior to offer me a deal I couldn't refuse. I manipulate variables, he had said. He hadn't just manipulated variables, he had manipulated me. Every moment played back in my head. The chance meeting, the deal, the way he looked at me when I accepted the ring. You think you want a nice, safe human? I'll change your mind. He hadn't changed my mind. He had trapped me. The romantic dinner, the pillow fort, the notebook. Was it all just part of the acquisition strategy? Was step 50, kiss the girl, just a checklist item to ensure the asset was secured? I felt sick. I felt stupid. And then I felt angry. A cold, hard rage settled in my chest, replacing the giddiness from this morning. I looked at the ring on my finger. The gold felt heavy, like a shackle. I grabbed the papers. I grabbed my keys. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to war. Chapter 20. The Confrontation. I was waiting for him when he came home. I had packed my bags. They were sitting by the door. The duffel bag, the backpack, the sketchbook. The pillow fort was dismantled, the blankets folded into a neat, sterile pile on the floor. The elevator chimed at 6 p.m. exactly. Dante walked in. He was beaming. He held a massive bouquet of wild lilies, not roses, because the notebook said I liked lilies. Maya, he said, his voice warm. I cleared the schedule. The helicopter is waiting to take us to. He stopped. He saw the bags. He saw the dismantled fort. And then he saw me, standing by the window, wearing my leather jacket and boots. The smile vanished. The alpha mask slammed back into place. What is this? He asked, his voice dropping. I didn't say a word. I picked up the manila envelope from the coffee table and threw it at him. It hit his chest, papers fluttering to the floor. Dante didn't look at them. He kept his eyes on me. Vargas. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. I knew Vargas would try to interfere, Dante said calmly. He stepped over the papers. He is desperate. He gave me the receipts, Dante, I said, my voice shaking with suppressed rage. You bought the debt the day before you met me. You ordered the foreclosure. Dante stopped moving. He didn't deny it. He didn't look ashamed. He just looked resolute. Yes, he said. The honesty hurt more than a lie would have. You trapped me, I whispered. You created a crisis so you could swoop in and be the hero. You manipulated my mother's fear. You manipulated me. I did what was necessary, Dante said. I found my mate. I studied your file, Maya. I read about how you sacrificed your art for your mother, how you fought to keep this place alive. If I had walked in and told you we were fated, you would have laughed and kicked me out. I needed a way to keep you close. I needed time to show you who I was. So you bought me? I yelled. Like a piece of furniture? I secured our future, Dante roared back, his control slipping. I am a king. I do not leave fate to chance. I saw you, I knew you were mine, and I took the necessary steps to ensure you would be safe. And it worked, didn't it? You are safe. The cafe is yours. And last night was a lie, I cut him off. Dante flinched. No, last night was real. How can it be real if the foundation is a fraud? I demanded. You stole my choice, Dante. You forced me into this corner. That isn't love. That's control. That's just dog training. I reached for my left hand. I gripped the heavy gold ring. Dante's eyes widened. Maya, don't. I told you the first night, I said, pulling the ring off. It scraped over my knuckle. I don't like domineering alphas. I don't like men who think they own me. I placed the ring on the table next to the lilies. You aren't my type, I said, and you never will be. Maya, he growled, stepping forward, his hand reaching out. You cannot leave. You are my mate. My wolf will not allow it. Then tell your wolf to watch me, I hissed. I grabbed my spray bottle from my pocket. I pointed it at him. Dante froze. He looked at the bottle, then at my eyes. He saw the absolute, shattering disappointment in them. He lowered his hand. He stepped back. If you walk out that door, Dante said, his voice cracking, I cannot guarantee I will not burn this city down to get you back. Burn it, I said, hoisting my bag onto my shoulder. I won't be here. I walked past him. I didn't look back. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the garage. As the doors closed, the last thing I saw was Dante Moretti, the most powerful man in the city, standing alone in his tower, surrounded by scattered papers and lilies that were already starting to wilt. I waited until I was in Bumble, with the doors locked, before I let myself cry. Chapter 21. The Separation. The Tipsy Bean was closed, but I was sitting in the dark staring at the espresso machine. It had been 24 hours since I walked out of the Obsidian Tower. 24 hours since I threw the ring at the king. 24 hours of absolute, crushing misery. I thought leaving would make me feel empowered. I thought I would feel like the heroine in a movie who chooses herself over the lying billionaire. Instead, I just felt cold. It was a bone-deep chill that no amount of sweaters could fix. My apartment upstairs felt too small. The silence was loud. I kept reaching for my phone to text him, only to remember that I didn't have his number. I had his assistant's number, and I had blocked it. You look like a ghost, a voice said. I jumped. Leo, my barback, was standing in the doorway, holding a mop bucket. I'm fine, Leo, I croaked. My voice was wrecked from crying in the shower. You're not fine, Leo said, leaning on the mop. You haven't yelled at me for leaving streaks on the counter all day. And the scary guy isn't in his corner. He won't be coming back, I said, the words tasting like ash. Did he dump you? I dumped him, I corrected, though it felt like a lie. How do you dump someone who bought your debt just to own you? Meanwhile, across the city, the atmosphere was very different. In the penthouse of the Obsidian Tower, there was no silence. There was only the sound of destruction. Dante stood in the center of the living room. The white leather sofa, the one they had built the pillow fort on, was overturned, slashed open as if a giant claw had gutted it. The marble coffee table was cracked in half. The bouquet of lilies lay trampled on the floor, their white petals turning brown. Elder Marcus stood by the elevator, trembling. He had served 3 Alpha Kings, but he had never seen an aura this unstable. The air in the penthouse tasted of ozone and burning copper. "Sire," Marcus whispered, "the council. We need a statement. The debt acquisition. It is legal, but the human." Dante turned slowly. His eyes were not amber. They were bleeding into a bright, toxic neon yellow. The wolf was at the surface, scratching to get out. "Get out," Dante rasped. "Sire, the Silver Creek pack is moving on the borders," Marcus pressed, sweating. "Vargas senses weakness. Without a queen, the alliance is fragile. You must choose a new mate, immediately." Dante laughed. It was a terrifying, broken sound. "Choose a new mate?" Dante walked toward Marcus. The elder shrank back. "There is no other mate. There is only her." "She rejected you, Alpha," Marcus shouted, brave with desperation. "She returned the ring. She is gone. If you do not stabilize, the madness will take you." Dante grabbed Marcus by the lapels of his expensive suit and slammed him against the wall. "Then let it take me." Dante snarled, his fangs grazing Marcus's ear. "Because if I cannot have her, I will burn this city until there is nothing left for Vargas to take. Now, get out." Marcus scrambled into the elevator. Dante stood alone in the wreckage of his home. He walked over to the coffee table. Lying amidst the shattered glass was the gold ring with the black diamond. He picked it up. It still smelled like her, vanilla and defiance. He roared, a sound of pure agony, and punched the wall, his fist leaving a crater in the plaster. Chapter 22, The Spiral. By Wednesday, the misery had morphed into a dull ache. I was trying to work. I was failing. I was wiping down table 3 when the door chimed.
"Delivery for Maya Lin."
A terrified-looking courier stood there holding a box. He shoved it at me and practically ran back to his van. I opened the box. It wasn't flowers. It wasn't chocolates. It wasn't jewelry. It was 50 pounds of high-grade sculpting clay and a set of professional carving tools, the kind I used to drool over in art school catalogs but could never afford. There was no note. "What is that?" Brenda asked, emerging from the kitchen with a tray of muffins. She looked tired. She knew everything now, but for once, she wasn't reading romance novels. She was worried. "Clay," I whispered, touching the cool gray block. "I told him once, in the middle of the night, I told him I missed sculpting. He had remembered. He had written it down." An hour later, another delivery arrived. A crate of rare, imported coffee beans. The specific roast I had mentioned liking before he bought the debt. Then, a box of noise-canceling headphones. For the storms. "He's losing his mind," Brenda said, watching me unpack the headphones. "This isn't courting, Maya. This is a breakdown." "He manipulated us, Mom," I said, holding the headphones tight. "He bought us." "He's an idiot," Brenda said firmly. She sat down opposite me. "He's a powerful, stupid, emotionally stunted idiot. But Maya, look at this stuff. He isn't trying to buy you back with diamonds. He's trying to show you he knows who you are. It doesn't change what he did." "Doesn't it?" Brenda asked gently. "He saw a future with you, and he panicked. He used the only tools he knew, money and contracts, to make it happen. Was it wrong? Yes. But was it malicious?" She pointed to the clay. "A malicious man sends roses to apologize. A man in love sends you your dreams." I looked at the clay. I felt tears pricking my eyes again. "It's too late," I whispered. I gave the ring back. I broke the bond. "The bond isn't a ring, honey." Brenda sighed. "It's the thing that's making you look like a zombie and making him send art supplies to a coffee shop." The door chimed again. I looked up, expecting another manic gift, but it wasn't a courier. It was a man I recognized, the man who had given me the envelope. Vargas. He stood in the doorway, smiling. But this time, he wasn't alone. 2 massive men flanked him. "Afternoon, ladies," Vargas said smoothly. "I think it's time we discuss the terms of your new management." Chapter 23. The Kidnapping. The air in the cafe turned ice cold. "Get out," I said, stepping in front of my mother. My hand went instinctively to my apron pocket. The spray bottle was there. It felt pathetic against 3 full-grown wolves, but it was all I had. Now, Vargas hissed, stepping inside. He locked the door behind him and flipped the sign to closed. "No need for hostility. Dante is indisposed. I hear he's tearing his own penthouse apart. Sad, really." "What do you want?" Brenda demanded, her voice shaking but loud. "Territory," Vargas said, looking around the cafe with a sneer. "This place is a neutral zone, but neutral zones require a patron. Since Dante has lost his claim on you, Maya, you are unprotected." He took a step toward me. "I'm not unprotected," I lied. "He's watching." "If he were watching," Vargas laughed, "I'd be dead already. No, you returned the ring. You severed the tie. You are just a human woman in a city of wolves." He signaled his men. They lunged. "Run, Mom!" I screamed. I whipped out the spray bottle and aimed for the eyes of the first goon. Squirt. The lemon juice hit him square in the face. He howled, clawing at his eyes. It worked. But the second goon didn't stop. He backhanded me. The force of the blow sent me flying into the counter. My head cracked against the wood. Stars exploded in my vision. I tasted blood. "Maya!" Brenda screamed. I tried to get up, grabbing a glass jar of sugar from the counter. I smashed it over the second guy's head. He growled, stumbling back, but he didn't go down. Vargas was on me in a second. He grabbed me by the hair, yanking my head back. "Feisty," he murmured, sniffing my neck. "I see why he wanted you. You smell like chaos." "Let her go!" Brenda charged at him with a rolling pin. Vargas casually backhanded my mother. She flew across the room, hitting the wall and sliding down, motionless. "Mom!" I screamed, thrashing against Vargas's grip. "You bastard! I'll kill you!" "You can try," Vargas whispered against my ear. "But first, we're going to send the king a little invitation." He dragged me toward the back exit. I kicked, I screamed, I bit his arm until I tasted copper. He just laughed. He threw me into the back of a black van waiting in the alley, the same alley where Dante had first pinned me. As the doors slammed shut, plunging me into darkness, I had one thought. Dante. I closed my eyes and screamed his name in my head. "Dante, please!" Chapter 24. The Hunt. Dante was sitting on the floor of his ruined penthouse, holding the notebook. He was reading the entry from Chapter 15. Note, she defends the territory, keep her. He ran his thumb over the ink. She was gone. He had driven her away. The notebook slipped from his fingers, hitting the floor with a soft thud as a pain ripped through his chest. It wasn't the dull ache of heartbreak, it was a sharp, physical agony, like a hook being yanked in his gut. Then he heard it. Not with his ears, but with his soul. Dante. It was a scream, her scream. The wolf took over. Dante didn't stand up. He exploded into motion. He didn't take the elevator. He smashed through the glass of the balcony doors and leaped. He landed on the terrace below, rolling and sprinting. He didn't care about the suit. He didn't care about the cameras. He reached the garage. He ignored the Aston Martin. A car was too slow. A car couldn't track a scent through the concrete jungle. He shifted. Bones cracked and reshaped. The expensive suit shredded into ribbons. Fur, black as midnight, erupted from his skin. He grew, expanding into a creature of nightmare. A massive black wolf with glowing neon eyes. He burst out of the garage, his claws tearing up the asphalt. He ran. He reached the Tipsy Bean in minutes. The front door was locked, but he smelled it. Blood. He smashed through the door. The cafe was a wreck, tables overturned, sugar and glass on the floor, and there, slumped against the wall, was Brenda. The black wolf whined, nudging her with his wet nose. Brenda groaned, her eyes fluttering open. She saw the massive beast looming over her. She didn't scream. "Go," she rasped, pointing to the back door. "He took her, Vargas." The name was a spark in a powder keg. Vargas. The wolf threw his head back and let out a howl that shattered the windows of the cafe. It was a call to war. Across the city, the Obsidian Bloods heard it. The pack heard the king's rage. Dante didn't wait for them. He burst into the alleyway. The scent was there. Fear, lemon, and the oily, rot stench of Silver Creek. He tracked the tire marks. He followed the trail of exhaust and terror. He wasn't running anymore. He was hunting. And he wasn't going to stop until the streets ran red. Chapter 25. The Rescue. I woke up tied to a chair. My head was pounding. The room smelt like rust and standing water. It was an old warehouse, high ceilings, chains hanging from the rafters. Vargas was pacing in front of me. "Wakey, wakey, princess," he grinned. "Where am I?" I slurred. "Silver Creek territory," Vargas said. "The docks, far away from your precious tower." "He'll come for me," I said. My voice was weak, but I believed it. I had felt something in the van, a pull. "He won't," Vargas said. "He thinks you left him. He's probably drinking himself to death." Crash! The metal bay door at the far end of the warehouse didn't just open, it imploded. A massive metal sheet flew across the room, nearly decapitating one of Vargas's guards. In the cloud of dust and twisted metal, a shadow stood. It wasn't a man, it was a monster. A wolf the size of a horse, with fur like a black hole and eyes burning with hellfire. "Impossible," Vargas whispered, taking a step back. The wolf snarled, a sound so deep it vibrated my teeth. He launched himself. It wasn't a fight, it was a massacre. Dante tore through the guards like they were made of paper. He moved with a speed that defied physics. Snap, tear, next. Vargas pulled a gun. The barrel gleamed under the warehouse lights. "Pure silver hollow points, King!" Vargas screamed, his hand shaking. "Stop, or I'll put one in her heart!" He aimed the gun at me. Dante froze. He stood 20 feet away, his chest heaving, blood dripping from his muzzle. He looked at me. His eyes weren't feral anymore. They were terrified. "Shift back, Moretti!" Vargas screamed, his hand shaking. "Show me the man!" The wolf shuddered. Bones cracked. Slowly, painfully, Dante shifted back. He stood there, naked, covered in blood and dust. He didn't look ashamed. He looked lethal. "Let her go, Vargas," Dante said. His voice was raw, human, but barely. "You took everything from me," Vargas spat. "My territory, my status. Now I take yours." He tightened his finger on the trigger. "No!" I screamed. I threw my weight to the side, tipping the chair over. Bang! The gun went off. I hit the floor hard. I waited for the pain. I waited for the bullet. But it didn't hit me. I looked up. Dante was standing over me. He had moved before the sound had even registered. He stumbled back. A bloom of red was spreading on his chest, right over his heart. "Dante?" I whispered. He looked down at the wound, then at Vargas. Vargas stared, horrified. He tried to aim again. Dante didn't fall. He looked at Vargas, and he smiled. It was a smile full of blood. "You missed the head," Dante snarled. He lunged. It was over in seconds. Vargas didn't stand a chance against the dying king. When silence finally fell, Dante turned back to me. He swayed. His knees hit the concrete. "Maya," he wheezed, falling forward. I scrambled out of the ropes. They had loosened when the chair broke. I crawled to him. "Dante! Dante, look at me!" I pressed my hands over the wound on his chest. There was so much blood. "Did I?" he gasped, his eyes unfocused. "Did I pass the test?" "You idiot!" I sobbed, pressing harder. "You don't die. That's rule number 1. You don't die." "Notebook," he whispered, his hand fumbling at the air, looking for a pocket that wasn't there. "Write it down." His eyes rolled back. He went limp in my arms. "Dante!" I screamed, shaking him. "Dante!" Outside, sirens wailed. The pack had arrived. But I knew, looking at his still chest, that they might be too late. Chapter 26. The Sacrifice. The warehouse was swarming with flashing lights within minutes. The Obsidian Bloods arrived first, followed by human paramedics who looked terrified but worked with practiced efficiency. I was still on the floor, my hands pressed against Dante's chest. The blood was hot and slick, seeping through my fingers faster than I could stop it. His skin, usually scorching to the touch, was turning gray. "Dante," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Stay with me. You don't get to die, not after all this drama." "Ma'am, we need you to move." A paramedic with a glowing pack tattoo on his neck shoved me gently aside. "It's Silver," I screamed, grabbing his arm. Vargas shot him with Silver. "It's in his chest!" The paramedic's face paled.
Silver to the heart? Get the extraction kit, now! We can't wait for the hospital. I watched helplessly as they cut open Dante's chest. No anesthesia, no time. His body jerked violently as the instruments touched the wound. Smoke rose from his flesh where the silver was burning him like acid. "Status on the mother!" I yelled at a passing guard, wiping blood from my eyes. "Brenda Lynn, is she okay?" "Pac Beta is with her at the cafe," the guard replied, bowing his head slightly. "She has a concussion, but she is stable. She is asking for you, my queen." Queen. The word felt heavy. "Take me with him," I commanded, turning back to the stretcher. "Ma'am, the ambulance is for critical." "I said take me with him!" I roared. It wasn't an alpha voice, but it was close enough. They loaded Dante into the back. I climbed in, gripping his cold hand. The ride to the Obsidian Tower's private medical wing was a blur of sirens and shouting. "His heart rate is dropping," the medic yelled. "The silver-initiated necrosis, it's spreading." "Fight it, Dante," I sobbed, squeezing his hand until my knuckles turned white. "You stubborn, arrogant wolf. Do not leave me alone with your counsel. Fight it." We arrived at the tower. A team of doctors met us at the bay. They wheeled him away behind double doors marked "Sterile Field, No Entry." I tried to follow, but a strong hand caught my shoulder. It was Elder Marcus. He looked shaken, his suit disheveled from Dante's earlier rage. "You cannot go in there, Maya," he said softly. "The silver toxicity is contagious to open wounds. You are covered in his blood." "I don't care," I said, trembling. "He needs a surgeon, not a mate right now," Marcus said, and for the first time his voice wasn't condescending. It was sad. "Go upstairs. Clean yourself. We will call you if there is news." I looked at the doors. I looked at the blood on my hands, his blood. "If he dies," I whispered, looking Marcus in the eye, "I burn this city down myself." Marcus bowed low. "Understood, my queen." Chapter 27. The Vigil. I didn't go upstairs. I sat on the floor of the waiting room for 6 hours. I refused to wash the blood off my hands until I knew he was going to generate more of it. Finally, at 4 a.m., the surgeon emerged. He looked exhausted. "He is stable," the doctor said. I let out a breath that was half sob. "We removed the bullet. It missed the heart by millimeters, but the silver poisoning was severe. His healing factor is working, but it's slow. He is in a coma." "Can I see him?" "He won't wake up for a while, but yes." They led me to his room. It was stark white, filled with the rhythmic beeping of monitors. Dante looked small in the bed, which was ridiculous because he took up the entire mattress. Bandages covered his chest. Tubes ran into his arms. I pulled a chair to the bedside. I took his hand. It was warmer now. "Hey," I whispered. "You look like crap." He didn't answer. The machine beeped steadily. Beep. Beep. "You promised to change my mind," I said, tracing the scars on his knuckles. "Dying isn't part of the persuasion strategy, Dante. Dying is cheating." I sat there for hours, watching his chest rise and fall. I told him about the cafe. I told him Brenda was okay. I told him that I hated his stupid Aston Martin.
Around dawn, a nurse came in to change his IV. "Your mother is resting in the recovery wing, Miss Lynn," she said kindly. "I just checked on her. She's awake and demanding Jell-O. She's going to be fine." Relief washed over me, so strong my knees almost buckled. Mom was okay. "You should rest too," the nurse added. "Go up to the penthouse, shower, eat. The king won't wake up for hours." I looked at my clothes. My leather jacket was stiff with dried blood. My jeans were ruined. I probably smelled like a slaughterhouse. "Okay," I said, standing up on shaky legs. "But if he so much as twitches, you call me." "I promise." I leaned down and kissed his forehead. "I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere." I took the elevator up to the penthouse. The ride felt like it took a lifetime. I was exhausted, emotionally hollowed out, and terrified that the machine downstairs would stop beeping the moment I walked away. The elevator doors opened. I stepped into the penthouse. I stopped dead. Chapter 28, The Discovery. I had forgotten. In the chaos of the kidnapping and the shooting, I had forgotten that I left Dante amidst a breakdown. The penthouse was a ruin. The white leather sofa was slashed to ribbons, stuffing scattered like snow. The marble coffee table was cracked in half. The floor was littered with debris. It looked like a hurricane had spawned inside the room. Or a wolf. I walked slowly through the wreckage, my boots crunching on glass. "Oh, Dante," I whispered, seeing the violence of his grief. I reached the center of the room. The bouquet of lilies I had ignored was there, trampled and brown. Something glittered in the debris near the balcony doors, right where the glass had been shattered outward. It was the ring. I picked up the ring. It felt warm, as if it had been waiting for me. I slid it back onto my finger. It fit perfectly. It felt like armor. Then I saw it. Lying a few feet away, half hidden under a shredded throw pillow, was the black moleskin notebook. My heart skipped a beat. This was the book. The ledger of his manipulation. The list of assets. I picked it up. The cover was scratched, likely from when he shifted. I sat down on the floor, amidst the ruin of his home, and I opened it. I expected to see bank account numbers. I expected to see strategy notes on how to acquire the cafe. Instead, I saw handwriting. Messy, hurried scrawl. Page 1. Objective. Courtship. Subject. Maya Lynn, the bartender with the spray bottle. Note. She is not impressed by money. Do not offer money. I flipped the page. Step 1. Apologize for growling. Step 2. She likes lilies. Roses are cliché. Step 3. Win over the mother. Brenda. I flipped again, faster now. Tears blurred my vision. Note. She hates the cold. Installed heated floors in her room. Note. She fights her own battles. Do not interfere with the council. Let her speak. Step 47. The dishes. Brenda says this is foreplay. Buy more soap. I choked on a laugh that turned into a sob. Then I found the last entry, written in shaky letters, the ink smudged as if he had been holding it while his world ended. She left. I drove her away. I am not a king without her. I am just a beast. If I cannot have her, I do not want the city. I do not want the breath in my lungs. Maya. I closed the book, hugging it to my chest. He hadn't been taking notes on how to own me. He had been taking notes on how to love me. He knew he was broken. He knew he was socially inept, so he studied me like I was the most important subject in the world. "You idiot!" I cried into the empty room. "You absolute idiot!" I stood up. I didn't care about showering. I didn't care about the blood. I needed to tell him. Chapter 29. The Confession. I ran back to the medical wing. The nurses tried to stop me, saying visiting hours were restricted during rounds, but I flashed the ring in the alpha glare and they scattered. I burst into his room. The steady beep, beep had changed. It was faster now. Dante was awake. He was trying to sit up, fighting the restraints the nurses had put on him. His eyes were wild, panic etched into his face. "Maya!" he rasped, his voice sounding like he had swallowed glass.
Where is she? Is she safe?
"I'm here." I rushed to the bed, grabbing his face in my hands. "I'm here, Dante. Stop fighting." He froze, his eyes locked on mine. He blinked, as if checking if I was a hallucination.
You came back," he whispered. "You left. You gave the ring back."
"I went to get it," I said, holding up my hand. The black diamond glittered under the hospital lights. Dante stared at the ring, then up at me. He looked confused, vulnerable.
"Why? I lied to you. I manipulated the dead."
"Yes, you did," I said, "and I'm still mad about that. We are going to have a very long conversation about communication and financial ethics later." I pulled the black notebook out of my pocket. Dante's face went pale. The Alpha King, who had taken a bullet to the chest without flinching, looked terrified.
"You found it," he said, closing his eyes. "Go ahead. Laugh. The king needs a manual to talk to a woman."
"I'm not laughing," I said softly. I opened the book to a random page. Step 15. She looks beautiful when she argues. Do not kiss her to shut her up, unless she asks. I looked at him. "You studied me, Dante."
"I didn't know how else to do it," he admitted, his voice rough. I didn't know how to be what you needed. I thought if I wrote it down, if I followed the steps, I wouldn't mess it up. But I messed it up anyway."
"No," I said, tears spilling over. "You didn't. You tried. You tried so hard." I sat on the edge of the bed. "You aren't a monster, Dante. A monster wouldn't care if I liked lilies. A monster wouldn't build a pillow fort."
"I love you," he blurted out.
It wasn't poetic, it was desperate. "I know I bought the dead. I know I started this wrong. But I love you, Maya. I loved you the moment you sprayed me with that lemon water." I smiled through my tears. "I love you too, you big dumb wolf." Dante let out a breath that shook his entire body. He reached out with his uninjured arm, his hand trembling as he touched my cheek.
"Does this mean—" He hesitated. "Does this mean I passed the exam?"
I handed him the notebook and a pen from the bedside table. "Not yet," I said. "You missed a step." Chapter 30. The Ending. Dante looked at the pen, then at the notebook. He looked at me, confusion knitting his brows.
"What step?"
he asked. "Turn to the last page," I said. He flipped past the misery-filled entries from the breakup. He found a blank page. "Write this down," I commanded. He uncapped the pen. "Step 50, I dictated. He wrote, "Step 50. Kiss the girl," I said. He looked up, his eyes darkening with that familiar heat. He wrote, "Kiss the girl." "And," I added, leaning closer until our foreheads touched, "never let her go." He wrote it, "And never let her go." He dropped the pen. The notebook fell to the floor. "Come here," he growled softly. I climbed onto the narrow hospital bed, careful of his wires and bandages. He wrapped his arm around me, pulling me flush against his side. He kissed me. It wasn't frantic like the first time. It was slow. It was a promise. It was a seal on a contract that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with souls. When he pulled back, his eyes were glowing gold. He tilted his head, exposing his neck, and then looked at mine. "Maya," he whispered, "let me mark you. Let me end the doubt. Let everyone know you are mine, and I am yours." I didn't hesitate. I tilted my head to the side, baring my throat. "Do it," I whispered. Dante shifted, his canines elongating. He pressed his lips to the sensitive skin where my neck met my shoulder. He paused, giving me one last second to run. I threaded my fingers through his hair and pulled him closer. He bit down. A sharp pain flared, followed instantly by a rush of warmth that flooded my veins like liquid gold. I gasped. I felt him. I felt his love, his fear, his protectiveness. I felt the wolf settle, finally at peace. Dante pulled back, licking the bite to seal it. He rested his forehead against mine. "My queen," he murmured. "My king," I replied, tracing the bandage on his chest. "I'm still going to make you do the dishes," I whispered. Dante laughed, a deep, rumbling sound that filled the room. "I know. It's in the book." Epilogue, 18 months later. The penthouse looked different now. The white leather was gone, replaced by soft, durable velvet that could withstand claws and spills. There were photos on the walls, wedding photos, pictures of Brenda holding a world's best grandma mug, and a framed charcoal sketch of a wolf sleeping. I sat on the floor, surrounded by blocks. "No, Luca," I said firmly. "We do not eat the blocks." Luca, my 9-month-old son, looked at me with Dante's amber eyes and a very guilty expression. He already had a full set of teeth and a crawl speed that rivaled a sprinter. "Gah," Luca argued, throwing the block at the window. Dante walked in. He looked tired but happy. He had traded his suit jacket for a baby carrier strapped to his chest, currently empty because Luca was on the floor. "How was the air?" Dante asked, kissing the top of my head. "The air tried to eat a Lego," I reported. "And he shifted his ear again," I pointed. Luca's left ear was currently a fuzzy black wolf ear. The rest of him was human. Dante chuckled, picking up his son. "Good reflexes. He'll be a strong alpha." "He'll be a terror," Brenda called out from the kitchen, where she was supervising the private chef. "Just like his father." Dante sat on the sofa, bouncing Luca on his knee. He reached into the diaper bag and pulled out a notebook. It wasn't the old black moleskin. That one was kept in a glass case in the library. This one was blue. "Data entry?" I asked, leaning against his shoulder. "Important research," Dante said seriously. He opened the book. Title: Parenting 101. Entry 42. The spray bottle does not work on the toddler. He thinks it is a game. Neat new strategy. Entry 43. Maya says timeout is effective. Wolf instinct says howl until demands are met. Trial pending. I laughed, kissing his cheek. "You're doing great, babe." Dante wrapped his arm around me, pulling me and Luca into a hug. The storm outside lashed against the windows, but inside it was warm. It was safe. "I know," Dante said, looking at his family. "I studied for this."